Welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight. I'm Stephanie Scheller, your host. We go out looking for the most incredible, smartest, brilliantest business owners out there and bring them to you guys because my belief is you can learn from everyone. And my goal is to help you learn from other people and connect with really cool business owners. So today I have a guy here that we've just started chatting, so I know nothing. So this is going to be awesome. So Stephen, welcome to the Business Owner Spotlight.
Well, thanks very much, Stephanie, for the invitation. And I'm so glad that our mutual friend, Dave Dennison, thought to connect us. And that was really cool. And so I'm happy to serve your audience in any way I possibly can.
Cool. I'm glad too. Dave and I, that's a whole funny story of how Dave and I connected, but he's been great to chat back and forth with. We go back and forth. We've gone back and forth quite a bit now. But so for our listeners out there, what do you do and how did you, what you do is kind of cool, but how did you get there? What's the story of how you decided? Because most people don't, fall into being a business owner. They kind of make that one happen. So what's your story?
Well, gosh, I think it really goes to the DNA level for me. I'm the grandson of a long line of entrepreneurs. My family immigrated here from Greece and Turkey, northern Greece and Istanbul, Turkey. My grandfather came here in 1920 with $10 in his pocket. Couldn't speak the language,
wow.
But knew that he wanted to own a business. And he grew up in Istanbul when that was the time that it wasn't awesome to be a Greek male in Istanbul. There was ethnic cleansing. My great grandfather went to work one day and then never came home. My grandfather was 8 years old at the time and became then the man of the house. And he dropped out of the third grade to take care of his mom and his two younger siblings. And so really back then, that is when started this entrepreneurial journey really ingrained at the DNA level. And I'm serious about that. It was that commitment that really sort of, I think, changed the DNA of my family. So he came to the US when he was 18, $10, couldn't speak the language. And then, worked nights and weekends at a downtown Canton, Ohio restaurant, cleaning vegetables, cutting lettuce, washing dishes. Saved his money, and 6 years later, he owned his own restaurant. And he ran that restaurant through the Great Depression alongside of my grandmother. They had 4 amazing kids along the way. Of course, I'm biased because those are my mom, my aunts, and uncles. And then, 10 grandkids, and I'm one of the 10, and we've all been business owners. So the company that I own today is called Predictive ROI. I've run it for about 9 years with an incredible leadership team. But it's the 5th business that I've owned. And so when I say that it's really part of my DNA, I mean that. Everyone in my family has been an entrepreneur. We love it. It's stressful, but it is at our core what we're called to do.
Wow. Holy cow. That's the coolest freaking story. I've heard some funny stories on this little series. I've heard some, that's so cool. And I really love the fact that your granddad came over here and he worked his butt off to get his own business.
Right.
This wasn't someone, there's so many people who go out there and they try and get a loan or they try and just hop into business the next day without really working for it. And it kills me because I'm like, how do you expect to survive in business? If you're just going to hop into business and hop out of business, this isn't I shouldn't joke, but this isn't a marriage. You can't hop in and out that quickly, but I guess some people try and do. So I love that he did that. So tell us a little bit about Predictive ROI. What do you guys do with that?
So at the core, if you boil it down to what it is we do tactically every single day, we produce a lot of content for clients, but specifically we produce content that generates leads. We produce content that generates revenue. At a higher level, what we really focus on is being able to understand and help a client also get really clear about their point of view, their belief. What is it that they are doing? What they're called here to serve their clients in a certain way. What is their belief, and planting that flag in really firm ground, deep into the dirt. This is what we stand for, and this is how we serve clients. And so helping a client gain real clarity around that. And then creating what we like to call cornerstone content around that point of view. And that's really their thought leadership. And then being able to share that thought leadership consistently so they can build an audience around that flag. We like to call that the nation of true fans. And then once they've created this content, How do they monetize that? How does it generate leads? How does that drive revenue back into their core business? How does that get them on stage as a thought leader? How does that transform into a book? How does it transform into, other speaking engagements, maybe PR, those types of opportunities? How does all of that content drive revenue into their core business? So at a high level, strategically, that's what we do. Tactically, we're producing a bunch of content, whether that's podcasts, whether that's video, whatever shape or form of voice and video, and so on a monthly basis, we might be producing 80 to 100 different episodes across all of our shows and all of these different platforms.
Wow. So how did you land on this? So 5 companies. Obviously, you've been through some evolutions. I don't know what the stories behind all those were, but how did you end up landing on saying, this is what I want to do, at least for the next, you said, 9 years? So at least for the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think with any business owner, like you said, there's different iterations, right? The business that we started 9 years ago is clearly not the business that we have today. And the business that we have 10 years from now is not going to be the business that we have today. And so I think business owners have to be open to not only changes in the marketplace, but also, paying attention to what clients need. Yeah. And those needs change as their businesses evolve, as new tech comes on board, as there's new, consumer trends. And so I think one of the things that we've really tried to work hard at is being adaptive and being flexible and being helpful where our clients needed help. And so the business that we have today is really just, it's a byproduct of trying to be helpful, trying to meet customers and clients where they are and what it is that they need. And several years ago, we had clients come up to us and say, hey, that Onward Nation podcast that you have, that's pretty cool. Could you do that for me? And we're like, what? Could you build me a podcast? And so then we thought, yes, we can.
All right.
And so we did. And so we produced one, and then all of a sudden we produced another. And then pretty soon we're producing 15. And then all of a sudden it's 20. And it's like, holy bananas, what is this? And then recently we've realized that it's about voice and it's about video. And we need to be really, really good at that because that's where the market is headed.
Mm-hmm. So everyone's getting into podcasting right now. You said it's about voice and it's about video. Everyone's getting into podcasts, which of course always leads to once it gets super cluttered, it's really hard to make your voice heard. And podcasting has become, just for anyone out there who's listening to this and thinking, oh, I want to do a podcast, it's become its own art form. So, yes, I'd totally encourage you to get into it, but maybe do some research and really work to pull it together, because gone are the days when you could just record a random thought and, post it as your podcast. People expect a production at this point. So just as a side note for any of our listeners out there, because I do totally believe in it. But my question for you, Stephen, is where are we going from here? So if everyone's getting into podcasts, do you see maybe we're going towards the live videos, where I'm seeing live videos are becoming more of a production too, or where's it going?
I think we're going in all of those different directions. I think what we're seeing here is if somebody truly wants to be a thought leader, that person can't be a one-trick pony. That person can't be just great at podcasts. That person also has to maybe have some Alexa skills, maybe have some skills installed on Google Home, be able to, that are tied into, again, their core business, be able to be great at live video, be able to be great at recorded video. So there's a video series too. And then all the different slicing and dicings that come off of those hubs. Maybe it's a video hub, maybe it's an audio hub, maybe it's both, to where, let's say that you have a rockin' awesome podcast. How are you transforming that content into articles that might wind up in Forbes, into Entrepreneur, into Inc.? How are those interviews that you're collecting? We're taking 700 of our episodes and turning that into a compendium of research that will then be published. How are you transforming this cornerstone, this thing, into all of these different spokes? That's true thought leadership. And then it's getting you into more channels. So you're not a one-trick pony. It's not a podcast. It's not an audio file on iTunes. That's not thought leadership.
Right.
It's being able to take a video, an audio piece, and then transform it out into, so then your audience thinks, holy bananas, Stephanie is everywhere. When the reality is that Stephanie did one thing, but she smartly then transformed it into a bunch of things, and it really explodes her platform.
Yeah, and it allows, it's that whole time leverage thing. Everyone's like, oh, we don't have enough time. I'm like, plenty of time. You just got to be smart with where you invest it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know one question I always like to ask is this: what are some of the challenges that you've bumped into as you've been building all of your businesses that either maybe put you out of business? I don't know what happened with the other ones, but maybe put you out of business or could have put you out of business. What did you learn from those, and how did you handle those?
I think there's a great quote. I'd love to know who actually said this quote first, because it gets reused so many times. Like, the true definition of an entrepreneur is somebody who makes enough money to pay for their mistakes. And I've certainly made many. And excuse me, and really the commonality, which is interesting because it kind of is reoccurring, but the commonality that stretches across all of those mistakes is ego and not paying attention to what mentors, may have pulled you aside and shared their expertise and wisdom with you, and then ignored that. And unfortunately, I've repeated that same mistake in various forms, throughout my business career. Hopefully I'm getting smarter as I'm getting older. But I keep making that mistake. So when I think about,
I do too, by the way, just to throw that one out there.
Yeah. So when I think about mistakes that I've made at Predictive ROI, it's, trying to launch an event back in 2012, 13, and 14. That's where the planning process was, to launch an event at the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, Florida in January 2014, inviting 300 or trying to fill 300 seats, 1,000 room nights in a guaranteed contract with a budget of $2 million. I had no business doing something like that. Right? That cost us a couple $100,000 in real cash. Thankfully, the business was able to support that, but that puts an enormous, not only risk, but then financial burden on, at that time, a new business. It made no sense for us to do something like that. And so being able to kind of ebb and flow through those mistakes. But the reason why that mistake happened was because I did not pay attention to, somebody who's on my board of advisors, Darren Hardy, then publisher of Success Magazine. And, he's given me his insights and wisdom and so forth when we were together, which was often, and I never paid attention to it. Well, okay, so that mistake, cost the business a couple $100,000. Silly. So I think my best advice, to business owners, so they don't repeat the same mistakes I've made is, align yourself with really smart people, mentors, accountability partners, coaches, whatever kind of bucket you want to put their expertise in, but find people who have done what you want to do. Find those people who have done it before, align yourself with them. And then when they share their thoughts and insights and wisdom, do that. Don't let your ego get in the way. They're giving that insight to you for a reason. So do that, follow that plan because they've been there before.
I love that. Because, and it's funny. So I'm trying to write this one. I don't know why I always feel in my head like I have to write down the advice word for word. I've got it recorded. I can always come back and listen to it, but I always feel like I have to write it down word for word. But I think you're absolutely correct in that. When someone, now there is that trick of listening for counsel versus opinion. Make sure your great aunt Susie is telling you not to do it, and she's never hosted an event in her life. Maybe take that with a grain of salt. But when you do get counsel, advice from someone who's been there, done that, my biggest tendency is to not reach out for help until it's too late. Again, that ego thing where I'm like, I'm going to figure this out and no one's going to know that I struggled with this. And I'm learning, I still catch myself doing it, but I'm learning slowly, to catch myself. But I think you're right. It's, sometimes either we just don't go for advice or we just look at it and go, I got a better idea. And I really, really love that advice. It's funny. When I started doing this, I thought I was going to get the same advice from everybody. And I have very seldomly gotten the same piece of advice in all of these, which I'm super, super happy about. This was really awesome. I know we're right under the 15-minute mark, which I think is great because I think we'll get more people. This was really great. You dropped so many good nuggets here, Stephen. I probably could talk to you for another hour and just listen.
Well, thanks, Stephanie, very much. One for the, nice feedback. Thank you for that. But sincerely, thank you for the invitation. It was wonderful chatting with you, and hopefully your listeners, viewers, and so forth will find something helpful in that.
I certainly hope so as well. So for our listeners out there, guys, This was awesome. I mean, seriously, go out there. I would tell everybody, I end this one pretty much the same way every time. You have the potential to do something amazing. The question is if you're going to go out there and take action. And I'm going to add this one: ask for advice and listen to it when you get it. Go make it a great week.